Today's verses are Romans 2:12 through 13. If you sin without knowing what you're doing, God takes that into account. But if you sin knowing full well what you're doing, that's a different story entirely. Merely hearing God's law is a waste of your time if you don't do what He commands. Doing, not hearing, is what makes the difference with God. And these verses strike me that, much like with James, the verse faith without works is dead. That's been used to say, it's your works that get you in. No, the works are the end result of a heart that's changed. It loops back to Ezekiel. If the words are not written on your heart, then the stone heart doesn't change. That's how you can have people who have spent their lives, Jew or Gentile, reading the word, studying it, being close to the church and to churches without ever knowing anything about Christ. Because God is love. God created all people. So to dismiss anyone as lesser defeats the point of understanding we're all His creation. Because this verse doesn't scream high horse to me. This screams of mercy to me. That God knows what we're doing at all times. He's omniscient, obviously He knows. Omnipresent in all places at once. So we're not going to pull the wool over His eyes in any way, shape, or form. He knows us. He makes up His mind about us. So if we sin without knowing what we're doing, then God understands, because He cares about us. It's not to say He approves. It's to say He understands. And you can understand something without condemning or condoning. And God just right there in the word, God takes that into account. He takes into account when we don't know what we're doing is wrong. He tries to work with us because He's interested in us. That's why Jesus speaks of the prodigal son. Because it's about coming back to the Lord. It's a relationship. The Father rejoices when one returns. Oh, far more over the 99 that don't need the rescue. So when I read these verses, I read mercy on those who don't have a relationship, and honestly guilt on those who say they know but don't. Because a life that is living as Christ lives, a life that is devoted to the Word, in all capitals meaning Jesus, Yeshua, Messiah, the Lord, Yahweh. Yes is the answer. They are God. 3 in 1. So when trusting the Lord and doing what He says, our lives look it. The doing comes out. Doing agape love, doing mercy, doing righteousness, doing peace. Participating in it. Because being a professional sermon watcher helps no one. Not if it doesn't change. Not if we don't allow the Lord into our heart to change our hearts, to write His word on our hearts. It's not that we have to fight against this. It's a natural flow. I'll go into more of that tomorrow, because those are what tomorrow's verses are about. It's getting the opportunity to enjoy who He is and be with Him. Because you've got another thought coming right there in the middle, is sinning and knowing what you're doing is wrong. I can, but I don't. I want to, but I won't. How we do it is important. What we do is important. Our actions matter. Our hearts matter even more. There's a reason the word says to guard your heart. So does our heart beat for the Lord? And the mistakes we make, the sins, the failures that we commit without knowing what we're doing, that He knows our heart. He knows what we pursue, making up His mind about us. Or do we choose to pull on Adam/Eve and take the fruit? Because sinning, knowing full well what you're doing is wrong, that's what they did when they took the apple, pomegranate, whatever. The idea. I see that. I want that. I fear I won't have it, so I'm going to take it. It's a forced thing. Do we let God choose right and wrong, or do we do it? And I know this is a bit rambly, and for that I do apologize. I think it's time for more mercy. There's so much fear out there. What if I do this wrong? What if I do that wrong? What if I do... If you fail without knowing what you're doing, God takes into that account. So if the Creator of all things shows mercy on screw-ups when we do them without knowing any better, then why are we not showing that to all other people? Because there are some people out there who their intent is good, they just don't know any better. And condemning them as evil shuts the door on them ever getting to know Christ. Because behaviors can be evil. People are people with the capacity for terrible evil or incredible good. So let us lift up each other. Let us focus on that good. Let us remember that God takes into account everything when we mess up without knowing it and when we mess up intentionally, doing what we know is wrong. Because the choice is right there. Do what you're supposed to do, and if you whoops, God gets it, or ignore it completely. And I will admit, this verse is, for me, ring a lot harder for those in the body than out. Because if you've been in the body your entire life, love should be the focus. Because it's a love story from front to back. It's a story of patience, kindness, long-suffering, compassion, slow to anger, and faithfulness. And yeah, I did just use the Exodus one, because it's true. It's not a book of morality. Like, if you read it for 30 seconds, you realize the people in it are far from perfect, and in a lot of ways far from good. But that's the beauty of the story. The good, good Father who loves His children. The God that protects Abraham even when he completely ignores what is said. The God who looks after all of us when we make remarkably stupid decisions. So if He looks after us and doesn't condemn us because God is not a mean kid with an anthill sitting with a magnifying glass, that's not who God is. If He was, we would all be dead. There would not be a human species if God really behaved that way. Because, well, we can be crueler than that. So, for today, for the rest of our lives, I pray that the body live in the kind of mercy that has that long-suffering compassion. Slow to anger, filled with compassion, love, and faithfulness. Because if that is what is written in our heart, then that is what we're doing. And that's what makes the difference. See you guys tomorrow for verses 14 through 16. Bye.